On the 6th of May, 1945, Major Kirke B. Lawton received special permission for a special ceremony. At the Allied headquarters in Reims, the Wehrmacht signed the unconditional surrender on all fronts. The Second World War in Europe ended 2 days later. In London, people celebrate in the streets, just like in the Netherlands and Czechoslovakia. In Augsburg, a team from Special Film Project 186 films the defeated, among them Hitler's second-in-command, Hermann Göring. When US troops conquer Nazi Germany from the west in March 1945, camera teams follow them, documenting the defeated and occupied country. The special feature, they shoot in 16mm color. The result is unique film footage of the destroyed cities and their inhabitants, but also depressing images of the victims of terror and the policy of extermination. Liberation of concentration camps. As Allied forces advanced through German territory, in the final stages of World War II, they encountered and liberated concentration camps that revealed the horrifying extent of the Holocaust. Two of the most notorious concentration camps, Buchenwald and Bergen-Belsen, became symbolic sites that underscored the urgent need for the defeat of Nazi Germany. The shocking discoveries in these camps added a moral imperative to the military campaign and strengthened the Allies' determination to put an end to the Nazi regime. On April 11, 1945, the US Third Army, under the command of General George Patton, liberated Buchenwald concentration camp located near Weimar, Germany. The liberating forces were confronted with emaciated and sickly survivors, evidence of systematic starvation, forced labor, and medical experiments. The conditions were deplorable, and mass graves revealed the extent of the atrocities. British forces advancing into Germany liberated Bergen-Belsen concentration camp on April 15, 1945. The camp was in a state of chaos, with tens of thousands of inmates suffering from malnutrition and disease, particularly a typhus epidemic. The British soldiers were unprepared for the scale of suffering they encountered. The scenes of emaciated bodies, mass graves, and survivors in appalling conditions deeply affected the Allied soldiers who witnessed the liberation. Many soldiers were unprepared for the magnitude of human suffering they encountered. The liberators documented the camps through photographs and films, providing irrefutable evidence of the Holocaust. This evidence would later play a crucial role in the prosecution of war criminals during the Nuremberg trials. The liberation of concentration camps brought the reality of the Holocaust to the forefront of public consciousness. Newsreels and reports disseminated worldwide, ensuring that people globally became aware of the extent of Nazi atrocities. The shocking discoveries at Buchenwald, Bergen-Belsen, and other camps intensified the moral imperative for the Allies to eradicate the Nazi regime and put an end to the systematic genocide that had taken place under Hitler's rule. Fall of Berlin, Soviet and Western convergence, the Eastern Front of the war had been characterized by intense fighting between the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany. The Soviet forces had faced significant challenges and losses early in the conflict, but gradually gained momentum, pushing the German forces back. The Soviet Union launched the Vistula-Oder offensive in January 1945, making significant strides in pushing German forces back toward Germany. By late January and early February, Soviet forces crossed the Oder River, the natural boundary between Poland and Germany, bringing them within striking distance of Berlin. As the Soviets advanced from the east, the Western Allies, primarily the United States and the United Kingdom, were making their own progress from the west. This set the stage for a race to capture Berlin. The Soviet forces, led by Marshal Georgy Zhukov, launched a massive assault on Berlin in late April 1945. The city, defended by a mix of German regular and Volkssturm militia units, faced intense and brutal street-to-street fighting. Unconditional surrender, Reims and Berlin. The Wehrmacht signed the unconditional surrender on May 6, 1945, in Reims at the Allied headquarters. This was followed by another ceremony in Berlin on May 8th, officially ending the war in Europe. Post-war occupation and reconstruction. The post-war division of Germany into occupation zones and the subsequent denazification process were critical components of the Allies' strategy to rebuild Germany and prevent the resurgence of Nazi ideology. Here's a closer look at these two interconnected aspects. Occupation zones, 1945-1949. Four-zone division. Following the unconditional surrender in 1945, Germany was divided into four occupation zones, each controlled by one of the major Allied powers: the United States, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, and France. Berlin's special status. Berlin, located deep within the Soviet zone, was also divided into four sectors, reflecting the broader division of Germany. Despite being situated in the Soviet-occupied territory, the city itself was jointly administered by the four Allied powers. Challenges of division. The division of Germany and Berlin highlighted ideological and political differences among the Allies, particularly the growing tensions between the Soviet Union and the Western Allies, which laid the groundwork for the Cold War. The division also led to economic disparities between the zones, as each occupying power pursued its own reconstruction policies. Denazification was a comprehensive program initiated by the Allies to dismantle Nazi influences in German society. The primary goal was to eradicate Nazi ideology, institutions, and individuals who played significant roles in the Nazi regime. Denazification efforts were organized around the 4Ds: demilitarization, denazification, democratization, and decentralization. The denazification component aimed to cleanse the German society of Nazi elements. Germans were classified into different categories based on their level of involvement with the Nazi Party or related organizations. Categories ranged from major offenders to exonerated persons. Individuals identified as ardent Nazis were removed from positions of influence in government, education, and other sectors. This involved dismissals, arrests, and trials. The Nuremberg trials, conducted by the Allied powers, prosecuted major war criminals, including high-ranking Nazi officials. Additionally, domestic trials were held to address lower-ranking Nazi officials and collaborators. The denazification process faced challenges due to its slow pace and the sheer magnitude of the task. Critics argued that some former Nazis were rehabilitated too quickly. As Cold War tensions escalated, denazification efforts were sometimes tempered by the need to establish a stable, anti-Soviet West Germany. Nuremberg trials, war crimes. Prosecution. The Nuremberg trials, held from 1945 to 1946, were a series of military tribunals that prosecuted prominent leaders of the Third Reich for war crimes and crimes against humanity. Long-term impact. While denazification had a significant impact in dismantling Nazi structures, its long-term success was debated. Some argue that it successfully purged Nazi influences, while others contend that compromises were made to stabilize Germany and counter the Soviet threat. The division of Germany into occupation zones and the denazification process were pivotal in shaping the post-war era. The challenges and decisions made during this period laid the groundwork for the formation of West Germany and East Germany and influenced the geopolitical dynamics of the early Cold War years.
Would you tell her?